from like literally from a very, very young age, I knew I was different. I'm already sweating so much. Oh my god. It's not even a hot day and I'm just like bleh. Oh my god, I changed up my setup a little bit. I'm on a chair. I'm sitting on a chair. That's so fancy. Oh my god. I finally realized that it's not very a good idea to, at least in this like area of the room, not to sit on the floor to film. Because like there's the cast of the shadow from my bed, and the cast of the shadow from that bed, and the window that's not supposed to be there, and it's just lots of casting shadows from things that should not be in the picture. So I'm higher up, so they're not as permanent on my face. Anyway, I'm holding a water bottle, so you're gonna hear that throughout the video. And this video is about my spiritual journey throughout my life I've had since the two videos that have gained a lot of views recently are my two pick-a-card readings, and literally in the last month I didn't know those videos existed, but I did know that there's like a version of pick-a-card readings on Instagram where people like take a picture of like the cards, and then like one post is like everything like not facing up, and like they say like pick the one you're most drawn to, or pick the cards you're most drawn to. If you would pick a card and then like a few hours later they would post like the revealed image and like the message that would go with it. That's the only thing I knew about pick card stuff is on Instagram. I didn't know videos existed, like more in-depth messages you can get in videos. And like, I kid you not, for a straight week, that's literally all I watched every single day. And I was just, I felt very connected with it. I kept on telling myself like I couldn't do this because I'm not very good with knowing the meanings of cards right off the bat. So I kept on telling myself I can't do this. I probably can't. I'm not well versed in the cards to do that. But then like 2 weeks of me saying that to myself, what can I lose? There's nothing I can lose at this point posting a pick card reading. So I decided to film that first one, the universe message one. And I knew like from looking at other pick a card reading videos, I knew that I was gonna get a lot of views, more than I normally do, but I didn't expect that much view, like that many views. Like that is surprising. And it's been, for that video in particular, it's been like a week and a half since I posted it, and it's still like growing at a constant rate, and I'm just like, okay, that's, people like those, all right. And the reason I'm making this particular video is because a lot of my new subscribers that like have literally, I've gained over 100 new subs, and it's really weird. I'm not used to that at all. Like for years, or at least like, yeah, for years I stayed around 200, and like, because I was consistent with videos last year during the summer, I gained about 50 because I was so consistent, but it stayed around like the 200 to 50 range of subs, and it never grew. And I was just like, alright. But then I put out these two videos and I literally gained over 100 subs, and I'm like, alright, weird, but thank you. The reason why I'm making this particular video is because a lot of my subs and a lot of the views I'm getting currently right now are about my pick card readings. And I think I should make this video as like a sort of background story of my spiritual journey of sorts, of like how I came across tarot and how I became a witch and stuff like that. I don't know if I mentioned in one of the videos where I said I was a witch. But I'm a witch. I know in like other videos I've said that I'm a witch openly, but I don't know in the pick card readings if I did. My spiritual journey definitely started when I was in elementary school. Literally from a very, very young age, I knew I was different. I say that, and like a lot of people say that, but particularly me, I knew something about me didn't go in the same rhythm, the same rhyme and reason rhythm of other people, like other kids around me. And I could tell, like I was attracted to things that other kids weren't, and I was interested in stories other kids weren't. And like even before I became isolated in like the 2 years of elementary school, I'll get to that, where I had no friends. Like even before that, when I was actually quite popular, like I wasn't one of those popular kids, but I was a lot more likable. And even then, I knew I was different. I was not only like a tomboy, I hated skirts, I hated dresses. And this was at a young age, and I didn't like any of that. I know being a girl in elementary school, you're supposed to like skirts and dresses. I didn't. And that was like one sign that I noticed that I was not drastically different, but I was different in a way that maybe other kids saw as weird. I was also that kid that always liked to play pretend rather than play a sport or like play on the playground or play basketball in the courts. I enjoyed vastly of just sitting in the middle of like the field at my elementary school and just talk with like my friends that I was friends with during that age. Like I love to pretend and talk and stuff like that. And that's not necessarily spiritual, but like that was something that made me feel a little different. Like literally I remember those days where every other kid at lunchtime and recess were doing some kind of physical activity, while me and my friends were just like sitting in the grass talking. And that was definitely weird. And like I didn't mind it at all, but at a young age I don't think I totally grasped what ghosts were at a young age. I knew the basic concept of them, but I didn't like totally grasp what ghosts were. Even though I didn't know exactly what they were, I still believed that ghosts were real, even though I was like 6. Speaking of ghosts and stuff, there was one time, I slightly remember this. I don't know how old I was. It was young. It was really young. Like 5 maybe. But I remember that right after my uncle had passed away, I was very young at the time. That's all I really remember. I remember we have a weird treehouse thingy in the backyard. It's not really a treehouse, but there's this room built on top of it that you can go into, like, by a ladder. And this was back when it was, like, recently kind of made. I would sometimes go up in there and just sit around and do nothing. Recently, after my uncle passed, I have a slight memory of this. I didn't see anything. Like, visually, I saw nothing. Like, I remember this. Like, even as a kid, I didn't visually see ghosts, but I could feel them. Like, I remember standing there, and I was pretending or thinking of, like, dreams and stuff. Just, I started thinking about my uncle who had passed away. And this was at the age where I didn't really understand what death was. So, and this was also the age where I didn't really understand what ghosts were. But I had this experience, like, my kid mind even now had played it up to my, like, overactive imagination, just hyping this up. I remember I felt him go through me like a ghost would. I remember thinking that was him saying goodbye. And then I remember looking out the window of the treehouse, and I remember waving goodbye even though I saw nothing. I remember this. I legitimately remember this. So, I remember going into the house, and my mom was there in the kitchen. But I asked my mom like a month or two ago about it. She said I went into the house, and I said that Uncle Bob had gone through me and said goodbye. That's at the age I was, my mom knew that was not normal. That a little kid my age at that time, like, wouldn't have known what the fuck was happening and what ghosts were and death. Like, I was too young to really comprehend that. That was one of the big moments for my mom realizing that I was a little different. And she had never told me that happened, that she remembered that when I got older. I asked about it and she told me, and I was like, really? That's surprising. I always knew I was more sensitive to things. I always knew. There was some things that I noticed and some things that, like, I felt that weren't exactly right, if that makes sense. Like, I've always been overly sensitive about past lives. That was a big thing for me, especially when I, like, was in high school. I was always drawn to certain eras and times and places without even, like, learning it in school yet. But at a young age, like, I was specifically drawn to ancient Egypt. We had not learned about this in school at all. I literally, as a kid, I explored this time and place on my own because it was that fascinating to me. And I felt so drawn to it at a young age. And that feeling never left. It still hasn't left. I don't think it ever will. But yeah, like, I always knew I was different personality-wise, at least. And we're about to get to a touchy subject. Well, I have to really tell this story because it is part of my spiritual journey of sorts. Because it really kind of did pave a way into who I am today, so, at least spiritually. In 3rd grade, I was held back, so I had 2 years of 3rd grade. In the 2nd year of 3rd grade, I became very, very, very depressed. In 3rd grade, I was, how old was I? I was not very old. Like, you think 3rd grade, and you normally don't think an older kid. I think the reason why I got so depressed is because I not only got held back, granted, like, it was weird because, like, a bunch of kids, not only me, were held back. It was weird. Like, a lot of us got held back for some fucking reason. I remember I got super depressed because I was not only held back, it made me feel stupid and all that shit, which was bad at that age. And I really hate that, like, you are allowed to, like, hold kids back in elementary school. I mean, I get it, but you have to realize how much damage it does to the kid mentally, because it did a lot of damage for me. And I remember it made me, that made me super depressed, the fact that, my best friend at the time was moving away and changing schools, so I didn't have her around as much. So I pretty much lost all my friends in the span of, a few months over the summer from, 3rd grade to 3rd grade. It was really depressing. It was really hard for me. So because of that, I didn't know this was happening at the time, but I got a super fucking dark demonic spirit attached to me. Not this house, to me, because my depression was so intense. He really dug his claws in and tortured me mentally. I didn't realize he was doing it, because I can't see spirits. And I know I was too depressed to really sense things, but mentally, subconsciously, I knew something was wrong because how bad I got. It got to the point, I remember, mind you, this is me as a kid. I was no older than 10. The whole year, the 2nd grade of 3rd grade, my depression was gradual, I think. It was not as bad at first, but then it slowly intensified because this spirit had attached himself to me. Because of that, he kept on intensifying my depression. It got to the point where literally the last few months of 4th grade, it was the 2nd year of 3rd grade where I had a constant depression, and I went to 4th grade, constant depression, and by the end of that 4th grade, 2 years of this, mentally had degraded to, it's hard to say, I had degraded to someone mentally unstable. And I say this because I remember the things I did that I look back on, and I can just, I just know that was not normal. Specifically the not normal thing, I remember, being drawn to this tree in particular. And I remember talking to it like it was alive, because I was so alone. And this demon had degraded my mental state so much that I was talking to a fucking tree. You don't make this shit up. And that's one of the reasons why I get very personal when someone on a video ever comments that they don't believe in demons or dark spirits. I take that very personally. I was a 10-year-old that was mentally unstable to the point of I was talking to a tree, I was isolated and neglected, and I wanted to kill myself. Only demonic spirits have that influence on you. Only strong demonic spirits have that influence over you. I later found out, after I had met my best friend in the beginning of 5th grade, who really took a chance with me, and we're still friends even to this day. He saw how bad I was in mentally, and he just was not afraid of it. Literally, the first time I was drawn to something spiritual in a way was when I got my first deck of tarot, and this was way back. I think it was 5th or 6th grade. But either way, I live in the LA area. I've always lived in the LA area. I remember that there was one day where our class had a field trip to a science museum. And so we go there on a field trip. I remember really enjoying it. and my mom had given me some like money to get stuff from the gift shop. What do I get at a fucking science museum? A deck of tarot cards. I kid you not. I get this at a science museum. That and sour candy. Now that I think about it, like, that was actually a surprising thing you would find in a science museum gift shop, is a deck of tarot. I have fucking no idea. I ended up getting it. I didn't really understand what tarot was at the time, but for some reason I really fucking wanted it, so I got it. And I think I did like one spread, but I don't remember what it was. It was just something stupid, and I didn't really understand it. And so I kind of never really messed with them again, but I kept them. They were like in a drawer somewhere for years. So life goes on, and as I got older, I started noticing things out of the corner of my eye. I would see shadows go by. I would see things. And then I met my medium friend. I will never tell you who this person is or how long I've known them, but they're a very powerful medium and spiritual person. Like, they were born with this. They're a very logical person, so it's very weird for them to have like this much sensitivity. Like, they can speak and see ghosts like they were normal people. I know it's not very good, but they can, like, they've had spirits possess them before, and I've talked to spirits through them like they were a normal person. They've been able, like, this friend has been able to do that since they were a kid. Like, this is something not new to them. They grew up with it. They're also able to talk to past life stuff. So this friend is one of the main reasons why I know so much like actual shit about my past lives, is because we've had sessions where we talk about stuff. My friend sometimes gets like visions of my memories, and then they describe the memories to me, and that's where like a lot of my memory stuff, unless I remember it myself, a lot of the memories, like detailed memory stuff, is from what they've told me, from the visions that they've had. Yeah, like my medium friend has helped me a lot spiritually. They're like one of their main like things. They're not psychic at all. They don't know the future for shit. They're more about ghosts, past lives. That's pretty much it. So they're mostly the reason why I know so much, particularly about spirits, is because they have told me things I'm not really supposed to know. Like a living person is not really supposed to know the information that I know. And some of that information I will probably never tell the public ever, really, because that shit is not supposed to be known by the living. So like I've learned a lot about spirits in particular because of my medium friend. Like I know like the different types of spirits. I know the different types of demons you can come across. I know what the afterlife is like. I know how you become a demon. The one thing I do want to mention in this video is it's a bit touchy. It's a trigger warning. It's a bit touchy. I talk about, well, I should probably already have a trigger warning because I talked about suicide earlier. I was told that it's a common knowledge thing that depressed people resort to suicide to end the feeling and end the pain is to kill themselves. And I learned that that pain does not go away when you die. It stays there. And you're continually depressed when you're dead, as a ghost, as a spirit. You're still depressed. But the thing is, you're dead now, so you can't really kill yourself again. So that's something I know depressed people should keep in mind, that the pain doesn't go away when you kill yourself. Not only stays, but it probably intensifies. So don't do it. I'm glad I didn't. So killing yourself is really not the answer at all. Ever. because that pain is gonna still be there. It's also because of my medium friend that I know a lot about my past lives and just past life information in general. So my medium friend really kind of elevated my spiritual awareness, I guess. And ever since like me and my medium friend started to like connect a lot spiritually is when I started to notice things more. Like I had dreams more that were paranormal. I saw things in the corner of my eye a lot more. I felt things a lot more, so I was a lot more aware to it. And that's not something I can just turn off now. It's just the state of being of how I am now. But unlike my medium friend, spirits and ghosts aren't really my thing. It's my spiritual emphasis is really on not only tarot, which I've gotten really into. My spiritual stuff is more energy based, I guess. It's a lot more about energies in the universe and how I can like use them, the energy for myself and how I can use that. And also just like past life stuff. Like I'm less about ghosts. I know they're there. They're there on a daily basis. I know this, but I don't dwell on it very much. That being said, I do know more than the average person. As my sensitivity started to increase, I slowly was drawn to the idea of being a witch. So like around 2 or 3 years ago, I slowly started to research like witch stuff. I know that sounds funny, but I started to research like spells and what exactly witches are and like what witches do and different things that like go with that. And I've been raised Catholic. I've been Catholic my whole life. And I didn't really want to change that. Like, I wanted to stay Catholic, but I wanted to be a witch at the same time. So I start researching witchy stuff. And the only reason I chose witchcraft is because it's like the practice I kind of was drawn to the most. I mean, there's Buddhism, there's Hinduism, there's Buddhism and voodoo and stuff like that. But particularly witchcraft, I don't know, I felt very drawn to it because I think it's so like, not exactly free-spiriting, but it's very open. You can be a witch without practicing Wicca. You can be a witch that practices Wicca. You can be a witch that only does these kind of spells, or you can be a witch that doesn't really do spells but does tarot or things. And you can be a witch that like practices with candle magic, and you can like there's no cut and dry box when it comes to witchcraft. And I think that's one of the things that I was so drawn to about it. After I started researching it so much, I just kind of decided to call myself a witch. I didn't change my Catholic upbringing at all. I still consider myself Catholic. I still go to church. Like I went to church for Easter. I still consider myself a Catholic, particularly because I know when I'm like super upset or something, or I'm super nervous, I always go to Catholic stuff. I'm just saying like that. When I'm nervous or upset, I tend to resort to like doing the sign of the cross and praying, and not witchcrafty stuff. I consider myself a Catholic solitary witch. Solitary witches are people who don't have a coven. They're just a witch on their own. I don't do well with people, so I don't think I would do very well in a coven, really, because I have my own way of doing things. Not saying like being around other witches and maybe doing that once in my life, I wouldn't like be opposed to it, but I personally like doing things alone more because like I said, I have my own way of doing things. Yeah, I just like I've ever since I've been calling myself a witch, I just don't have a desire really to be in a coven. I mean, be cool and sweet to meet other witches. Actually, I have met other witches. My best friend's cousins are witches. They're a lot more traditional in witchcraft than I am. They have a broom. They both have brooms. They both have like a bunch of crystals. They both have like a lot more witchy things than I do. Not saying like I don't want those things, but they're a lot more, I think, into the spell aspect of witchcraft, where I'm more about the divination stuff, like tarot and oracle cards and stuff like that. Yeah, like I was gonna explain the witch thing, and then I was going to explain my spiritual stuff recently. One of my most recent things I've discovered is, like, I knew what pendulums were, but I thought you had to have like an actual crystal pendulum. But then like a week or two ago, I started using this as my pendulum. You probably can't see this. It's a little chain that I made years ago, and this is I have a fidget problem. Like, I like to do things with my hands when I'm nervous. That's why you see me doing this a lot in videos, is because like I like to do things with my hands. But yeah, this is something I carry around all the time, and if I can't find it, I freak out. So I just kind of decided to use this as a pendulum. It works. It's made some really successful predictions. For those of you that don't know what a pendulum is, it's pretty much you hold it at this end, I do this, and if it like goes a certain way, or if it like spins, or goes this way, or that way, on its own, like I don't move it, on its own, if it moves a certain way, it means like yes, no, or maybe. I've asked a lot of questions. I usually ask at least one question a day, lately I've noticed. And it's usually the same questions over and over, and I only do that because like I want to make sure it's the same answer every time. One of the predictions that I did like in the past 2 weeks is I asked if my sister was pregnant. My sister didn't know at the time. It said yes. I also asked what gender the baby was. I know the gender. I'm almost positive that it's predicted the gender of the baby correctly. Because when I predicted that my sister was pregnant, my sister had no idea she was pregnant. No one knew. But I had this like feeling that she was, so I asked and it said yes, and I'm like, huh, okay. And then a few days ago, she was confirmed to be pregnant. And it's 8 weeks, 2 days old. I'm gonna be an aunt. That's one of the things that like I've discovered is the pendulum. And with me, the pendulum, I know for some people the pendulum, if you like ask a question, it doesn't move. But with me, mine moves almost immediately after I ask a question or anything like that. So that's interesting. That's a new development of my spiritual journey, is using a pendulum. I do eventually want to actually get a real one with one of like those crystals that like is pretty and shit. I do eventually want to get a proper one, but this is what I have now. It works. There's some other spiritual things that's happened. Some spiritual shit that I have actually never told anyone before. One of the things that I spiritually have never told anyone yet is about when my dog got hit by a car. For those of you that don't know about that story, I'll link to videos about it. But long story short, my dog got hit by a car last July, last year. It was this big ordeal for 3 months. And then right when he was about to like fully recover, his kidneys started to, we still don't know what the fuck happened, but he had some bacterial infection in his kidneys, and his kidneys enlarged or something, and he got really, he changed like overnight dramatically, and we just knew something was wrong, so we went to the vet. They did a bunch of blood tests and stuff. Since this was 3 months after like so many vet visits with his back, legs, and stuff, he knew what like a vet was. Like he knew that was like something bad was going to happen. So he didn't like the vet very much. And that's another reason why he doesn't like kennels very much, is because he had to stay in kennels sometimes, multiple times overnight in the vet. So he doesn't like kennels. This is literally a week before a scheduled appointment to take everything off his back legs and take x-rays of the back legs to see if everything's healed. His kidneys start to fail. Not fail, but like he got an infection, a bacterial infection. So we didn't know it was bacterial. If it was anything but bacterial, it would have probably killed him. And so we were really stressed, and they had to do a bunch of tests, and he had to stay overnight. Something happened the first night, I think, that he was at the vet for that I've literally never told anyone before. I remember I was in bed at night. I remember subconsciously a voice screaming my name. Legit, like someone in my head screaming Jessica over and over. I knew it was a male voice. I had this sudden realization that it was my dog calling for me. I know this sounds weird. I know it's like weird because technically he's a dog, but it was a human voice yelling in English my name, and it sounded so pained and so in panic. I realized it was my dog screaming for me to help him. And that was when I realized that somehow, through the 3 months of me taking care of him, from him getting hit by a car, that we somehow spiritually connected, in a spiritually linked together. That it's weird to explain, because when you say you hear someone else's voice in your head, people think it's crazy. But this was a telepathic type of thing. Like, this was someone else's thoughts that I heard that were projected toward me. And that someone just happened to be my dog that I had grown really close to over the 3 months of taking care of him. So, I realize who it is, and I get very upset, and I kind of send back to him. I don't know if it helped at all, but one of the big things with him was that he was not eating. This was when, that night when I heard it, was when they were giving him antibacterial meds through his IV in his paw, in his kennel, and I know he probably didn't like that very much. The vet said if the kidneys are fixed, he'll start eating again. So my big thing was the family's big thing is he had to start eating again. So we knew he was better. So I send back through this link pleading for him to eat. And then I go to bed, I sleep awfully, it was a terrible sleep. But the next morning I find out from my mom that he ate some chicken that morning. I thought that was interesting when theme of events where I heard him calling for me subconsciously, and I ask him to eat and he does the next morning. It's weird. And that's actually not the first time I've telepathically heard people in my head. Yep, I've actually heard my best friend say my name subconsciously. At first, I thought it was just my overactive imagination, but there was times that I remember specifically times where I was doing something not spiritual at all, like I was watching YouTube videos or something, and then like I hear this voice say my name. Like that's not my voice, like it's a male voice, and it says my name, and I'm just like, that was not me. I thought it was just my overactive imagination and that I was going crazy, but turns out that I am slightly telepathic. Also, my best friend and my dog were also sending stuff telepathically, so it's not like I can read anyone's mind. I think you have to like subconsciously send it to me so I can like hear it. And also I think I have to like know that person or animal very well to hear it, because I don't think like if a random stranger did that to me I would be able to hear it. Like I have to be close to that individual in order to hear it. I'm much better with empath stuff. I am an empath. I'm much more in depth with that than telepathic stuff. So I can sense people's emotions and stuff when it's just a stranger, but I can't read their thoughts. It's not that, like, I'm not Suki from True Blood. I'm not that in depth, but so there's that. Hopefully people don't think I'm crazy. I'm just very in tune with spiritual shit. I'm not gonna tell you that yet because I'm not ready to tell you. There's a part of me that I'm still fighting exactly spiritually, and I haven't really told anyone about it, like not even my medium friend or anything. It's just something that I've been thinking about for the past few months. Anyway, so that's me, spiritually wise. Hope you think I'm not crazy. Just saying. I'm gonna go. Okay, bye guys.